Thanks for taking your time out to do this. That's brilliant. I know you're like mad busy today.
Yeah, we're gigging today, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the gig.
Love Motorcade Races, I'm sure we do a bit of stuff for them at District in Liverpool. So us, Zen Baseball Bat, if people don't know them, they're fantastic, like ska band who have like electro stuff. Band called Vamos from Ireland. And just generally, you know, for a good cause and all that lot, like, and done loads of tickets, and yeah, it should be that good. Yeah.
Right, excellent. You still organising loads of gigs then? Or?
Well, I used to do this up until COVID. I used to do a thing called Free Rock and Roll, which was started at Caledonia years ago. Then it was at Mellow Mellow for a long time, and then most recently it was at Sound. But Sound didn't survive COVID, as a lot of places didn't survive COVID. So I tend to put gigs on for other bands from other places if they need a gig, people who put us on in Leeds or Glasgow or whatever. So I tend to do that, and we tend to do Sunday afternoon, early start, early finish gigs. That's become a bit of a thing now. We call it Punk Sunday, and we just do that. We start at like 4 and finish at 8. People still go out on a Sunday if they can be home in time. That's have a pint, but be home in bed, you know, in time. So yeah, do a bit, yeah.
Do you find it stressful or anything, or because you're playing and
stressful,
right?
Yeah, too much is stressful, really. Obviously, as the band have got bigger and bigger, of like I've got less. You know, I can't do a regular gig. I used to do free rock and roll things every other Thursday, and all those other things as well. But don't really have time for that now. So the band are doing. We tended to just gradually getting there more and more each year, and a little bit bigger gigs, bigger festivals, and that. So we probably don't do quite as many gigs, but better gigs, you know.
Yeah.
So we sort of crossed over from the punk scene. We still do like punk gigs, and we still do Rebellion Festival, the big one, and all that. But we've sort of crossed over into like, you know, more mainstream festivals, like Bearded Theory this year, which is a fantastic festival, you know, and that's got massive headliners, Iggy and Manic Street Preachers left, you know. And, you know, we even played Beat Herder last year, which is like a dance music festival, like a Ravers festival up in Lancashire, you know. Yeah. So you know, because we're not talking about an out punk band, we're sort of like a theatrical rock and roll band. We can fit into a lot of different things, so that's good, I think.
Yeah, I've seen you quite a few times. I always make a point of going to see you when I am at Rebellion, and it's quite refreshing because there's so many bands that are just free chords and angry and singing about the same sort of thing, which is all right, but you stand out to me as being really original.
There's a few of us, you know what I mean? I think, and I'm not slagging any of those other bands off, of like all kinds of punk bands, and it's great, you know. But I think one of the reasons we keep asking back is that, you know, we have got something different. And there are a few bands like that, one unit like that, in Terrorbang, Evil Blizzard. There's a few who are doing the punk thing, but doing their own thing, not take on it. So I think I'd sooner be that, really.
Yeah, you definitely stand out. How did the band start?
The band started, I'd been in bands years ago just playing guitar for people and what have you, but not done anything for a long time. And then 20 years ago, I got ill, very ill. I have a thing called Crohn's disease.
Okay.
But you didn't know I had that. So I was eating the wrong things and getting ill. And I was very ill. And then I got what they call sepsis now, which can kill you. Like, I was in hospital. I was in a bad way for a bit. And they said, oh, the trouble is you've got Crohn's and you need to be eating this and everything. So I was in hospital for a while, and in Liverpool, and my mum, who was about 80 then, she's not around anymore, used to come and visit me in hospital on the bus from Widnes every day, like I don't know what it is, 30-mile round trip or whatever. And mum was a retired dinner lady. And when you're in a bit of a bad spot where you're not thought you're going to make it, you do start thinking, if I get out of this, I'm going to do such and such a thing. And I thought, I think I should get back into doing music stuff because I've got more into promoting and playing. So I said to someone, I think I'll start a band and call it the Dinner Ladies. And then someone said, well, you should get Ladies then. And so that's a true story, and that's how it came about. So and I got better, obviously.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, not but I'm all right. Yeah.
And you have Dinner Ladies dressed up, dancing on stage.
I've had quite a lineup. Anyone who's had a DIY punk band going for like 17 years, everyone's had that's how it is, because, you know, everyone has to just do it for the love of it, and no one's really getting paid, and people have to go off and do other things, and they can't afford to do it, or go to college or whatever. So we've had quite a few, but we've got the lineup we've had now is more or less the same lineup for about 7 years. I think we'd give it to once you go. And we often have previous members coming back to fill in for someone, so it's kind of a little bit of a cooperative, like in that way. But anyway, to answer your question, we do have girls dressed up as dinner ladies.
You're still friends with people from people that have left, You're not like Marky Smith or anything, falling out with them.
We haven't quite reached the number of members as Marky. We're probably up to about 20, but not as bad as Marky Smith.
Did you envision you'd still be going 17 years later, 5 albums deep?
Not really, no. But at the same time, I thought I really want to make sure whatever happens, is to keep it fun. And I think that is the secret. Is you just have to keep doing it, just making sure that it's fun, whatever happens. I think when you're younger, you've got this like, want to make it and all that lot. But I think when you get older, you just realise that you're just doing it for yourself, really, and that's the best way. So if something it doesn't become fun anymore, you don't do it. So I think that's why we've managed to have such longevity, really.
What can someone expect if they're coming tonight and they've never seen you before?
A visual show. So visual show, we as well as we have a boy drummer and I'm boy singing, playing guitar. We have a girl saxophone player, girl bass player, and we have 2 dancers called the Dinnerettes. So one's girl, one's non-binary. So you've got lots of different types of people with different ages and different types, and you've got kind of punky rock and roll show with a lot of visual theatrics and quite political lyrics, but dressed up as something entertaining. I think that's accurate description.
You've summed it up really well. I think you leave people with a smile on the face.
Sure.
You make the audience get involved as well, so which I think is fantastic. What bands would you say you sound like? What's the biggest influences?
We get a lot of X-ray specs, but because we've got a saxophone, get quite a lot of B-52s. There is that kind of theatrical thing going on there. Musically, we get a bit of the Fall. Actually, a bit of it is like Fall. My musical influence is like 60s things, because I had a lot of older brothers and sisters, and then a bit later like Velvet Underground, and then obviously the punk thing. But generally simple raw rock and roll things for me.
Right, we'll skip to the premise. So this podcast is called Mars Records. I've given you a bit of a task. Hope you've been doing your homework. I'll do the official intro. Welcome to Mars Records, the podcast where guests face the ultimate interstellar challenge. Select 6 albums, 2 DVDs and 2 books to accompany them on a solar voyage to Mars to see if emigration to a new planet can save humanity. They'll never listen to or watch anything else again, so they must pick wisely. Along the way, they'll also decide on a food to clone for every meal, nominate a president of Mars, fly a band over from Earth for an inaugural gig, accidentally leave someone behind, and establish Mars's first law and ethos. You have done all that, haven't you?
I think so.
You said you were going to wing it.
I've got some headings, and then I'm just going to wing it from there on.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the last guys I had on, I don't know if you've watched Tied Down TV. They're from around these parts as well.
Right, okay.
They were like, I've been revising for the past 2 weeks, like really analysing what I'm going to pick and everything. If you want to wing it, that's entirely up to you. Okay. Yeah, we'll jump straight in then.
Okay.
It's your first album.
Bullet points then. Yeah. Okay, my 6 albums. First one, Velvet Underground, first album. A lot of people say, where did punk come from? I think the Velvet Underground, and I also think Andy Warhol. There's lots of, obviously people came to punk from lots of different directions, glam or garage rock and roll or whatever, but I think the Velvets, what's great about them is they were like kind of the first band. Well, let's go back a bit. I think the bands like the Beatles and the Stones and that were amazing, but it was still like entertainment. So you had the band up there and the audience down there. For me, the Velvet Underground were like the first band to be the same people off the stage as they were on the stage, and how they presented themselves and what the lyrical content was, with like Lou Reed writing about what was happening on the streets in New York. So, and also Andy Warhol's art influence. Our new single is called Artist Shit, and it's about, apart from the fact my parents saying stop messing up with all that art music stuff, it's never amounted to anything. Obviously they were right. But Andy Warhol said, don't worry what other people think about your art. Let them worry about that. And while while they're doing that, make more art, you know. So he had that was the birth of that DIY thing. That's just do it yourself, be yourself. So for me, that's the importance of the Velvet Underground. I think you can draw a line from the Velvet Underground through the Velvet Underground, New York Dolls, Stooges, Modern Lovers, through to the Ramones, and then the punk thing from there.
Yeah. How old were you when you first heard Velvets?
Actually, no. I mean, like most people, although we had loads of records in our house, I don't remember the Velvet Underground being one of them when I was a kid. And I think really it was only probably after the punk thing that people started referencing some, probably still around the time I heard when I was 17, 18, when the punk thing come. And you know what I mean? I think sometimes things aren't recognised in their own time, and then it takes a while for it to be recognised. You know what I mean? I seem to remember no one really liked it. Was quite uncool to like the Beatles for a long time. No one ever mentioned them. And then it was like when the Britpop thing came in and you had like Gallagher and that talking about them, it seemed to come back in the Beatles thing. So I think there's something happens with that as well.
Yeah, good.
Okay, number two.
Yeah, number two.
Okay, number two is maybe my favourite album of all time, which is called The Modern Lovers, which is by a band called Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers. This was recorded, I think, 1972, but it wasn't released till I think 76, because it wasn't considered fit for human consumption. I don't even familiar with it. Jonathan Richman.
Roadrunner.
Well, Roadrunner is the one that everybody knows on it. Yeah. Jonathan Richman, amazingly, is still around, and he's still amazing. He switched to doing acoustic stuff not long after this album, and he's kind of an eccentric guy who has his writing is very, very childlike, and the influence on me and a lot of other people is like we write songs about cats and dogs and lorry drivers and things like that. You can write about anything, you know what I mean? He's the guy, you know, there's filmed something about Mary, and there's different guys trying to cut, and he's the one. There's a wandering minstrel singing the song.
Oh, that's him.
That's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. But they had this band called the Modern Lovers, and at the time it would have been in the time of the prog rock era, you know, stadium rock, cock rock thing, and it's just very stripped down thing. It sounds like a lot of punk stuff or indie stuff now as well. It's like before everything, and it was rediscovered about. In 1976, and then it became a big influence on a lot of the punk things. Sex Pistols, the cover Roadrunner and stuff, and it's just that thing where he just writes. It's just got a dead simplistic, childish, like that song is just about him sitting in a car riding, just looking at what's outside. It's just an inspiring thing. Well, I can just write. I can write about anything. So you know what I mean. And it's dead simple. It's got the same thing as the Velvet Underground, where you hear it and it sounds amazing, but you think, yeah, maybe I could do that. Beatles are amazing, but sometimes it's so amazing you just think, oh, I couldn't do that. So you know what I mean? So it doesn't, in a way, it's not as inspiring as something that's as simplistic as this. So my second one will be The Modern Lovers.
I think that's mad how they sat on that for 4 years and didn't release it.
I think the label probably didn't know what to do with it because it wasn't like anything else. And then maybe the musical landscape was changing with the sort of, there was all the pre-punk things, a bit like the pub rock in the UK, like Dr. Feelgood and people like that. I think maybe just the musical landscape was changing and it was just the right time for it to happen, you know.
Yeah, number three.
Oh, number three is the band that we get compared to most out of all the punk bands, which is X-Ray Specs.
I did think this might be on the list. I've been listening to you on the way here and... Yeah, that's a compliment, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well, yeah.
Well, I like it. I mean, I think a lot of punks liked her who there was a bit of a kind of macho thing with the punk thing, especially bands like sort of Sham 69 and the Cockney Rejects and that. But so I think a lot of people liked it because she was like a female punk heroine, you know what I mean? And they listened to her writing and lyrics, Day the World Turned Day Glow and Artificial and that. She's writing about stuff that's way ahead of its time, you know, about song Identity, about, like popular culture now and celebrity culture and identity and all this kind of thing. Quite amazing, really. And she was just she was just brilliant. So if anyone doesn't know her, you just discover him. And it has a saxophone, so we get compared because it's got a saxophone. But the songs are just amazing.
Is your saxophonist a big fan as well? Because it sounds very similar. The solo sounds similar.
Right, No, I think that's accidental originally.
Oh,
yeah, sure, that's accidental. So, But yeah, so, and they weren't going for very long. She did have some mental health problems and she dropped out and she became like Harry Krishna and stuff. But they came back in 2006 or 2008 and did a one-off gig at the Roundhouse in London, and a load of us went to it. But unfortunately, she died of cancer after that. There's a great film about her, which I think is called I'm a Cliche, after one of the songs. Could be wrong about that, but yeah. So yeah, Polystyrene is her, and that was her band X-Ray Specs, which is number 3.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Absolutely agree. Did you see him the first time round, or was it just?
No, I didn't. I missed him. The first time. He did play Liverpool. I think they played Ericsson that, but didn't see him. But I had the singles and all that lot. So yeah.
Brilliant. Good choice.
Number 4, the Specials. So this might sound like an odd thing to say because we're not a ska band. The Specials is kind of the most major influence on the Dimmer Ladies. For one good reason, is that the Specials managed to be the best dance band and the best political band. And if you can, and it's not easy to marry those two things. It can come across very crass if you're just spouting lyrical stuff at people. So and again, it was a show. They're just unbelievable, the Specials, and saw them in the old days. Saw them sporting the Clash actually at Ericsson. Didn't take much notice. They haven't quite fully morphed into what they were going to become later on.
What year was that?
That was 78.
Right.
Is
this the first album?
First
Special,
album, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think they were called the Coventry Automatics before that, and I think they just changed the name to Specials. But they were managed by Bernie Rhodes, who managed the Clash, and he got them into adopting the sort of suits and the more sort of skinhead kind of image and everything, but they hadn't quite morphed into that really. So it was like we were just like a sport band. We didn't take much notice of them, and then like 12 months later they were amazing. So, but yeah, that's what, and some of the best songs ever anyway. So they certainly wrote Ghost Town is probably the best political record ever, maybe the best number 1 record ever anyway. So yeah, that's
a good debate to have.
Yeah, all the best bands were matching outfits, by the way.
Right.
You will notice this from my list.
I was going to ask you something then about the Specials.
Yeah. So,
it's gone. Oh yeah, what are your favourite tracks from some of the from that album?
I quite like Stupid Marriage. Actually, that's great. That's a great track, isn't it? Where the guys in the courtroom.
I don't know that one.
Yeah. Well, the guy. Oh no, that's not Stupid. I can't remember. There's one where the guy goes round and breaks his ex-girlfriend's window because he's jealous, and the song's done like a court scene, and Neville Staples is like the judge. And
I have heard that. Yeah,
I like that one. Yeah.
It's Gangsters on it.
Gangsters, I think, is on the re-releases. It wasn't on the original one.
Right.
Yeah. Gangsters is a great track.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's number 4, 5. Specials. Number 5 is the Mouldy Peaches. So I love. Do you know the Mouldy Peaches band?
No, I don't know. No,
you should check them out. So they got back together for one little tour last year, and I went to see them. But they come from 2001, and they're part of the scene in New York, which was like Strokes, Yeah, that kind of scene. Were the sort of that sort of garage rock and roll came back in about a little bit, and they were part of this scene that was called the anti-folk scene, which was they were like acoustic performers. It's mostly like 2 people, a boy and a girl, Kimya Dawson and Adam, and they wrote these mad, really quirky songs, but it's quite anarchic. And there were them and a few other performers, and the acoustic clubs stopped letting them in on the folk clubs because it was too anarchic. And there was like a folk club that they tried to get in, and the folk club wouldn't let them in. I think it was actually like a folk festival. So a guy called Latch, who I've seen in Liverpool recently, started another night and he called it the anti-folk night, because it wasn't a folk night for these people who were like a bit off the wall. It was too wasn't like traditional folk, or it was all these deadly sincere like singer-songwriter types. And the songs are really funny, quite filthy, a lot of the songs, and they just made this one album, and it's almost like a joke. It's so lo-fi, the recording, some of it recorded in the flat, but it's amazing. But at the time they were good mates with the Strokes, and when the Strokes became massive and came over here on tour, they brought the Mouldy Peaches with them, a support act, The album is mostly just them two acoustic, but they have a live band when they play live. And I saw them a couple of times there, and it's just amazing album. They got a bit of publicity, a lot of publicity off the film Juno, which is Ellen Page, who's now transformed into a guy. It was about a 16-year-old girl who gets pregnant, and they asked her what band would she be into, and she said the Mold Peaches. It's sort of for like quirky loner type of people kind of music, it gets a little bit like Daniel Johnston, that kind of thing. It's like that compared to that. And so they retrospectively, after they broke up, they got quite a lot of publicity off that. They did get together for about 3 shows in Europe last year, and we went to see them in the Roundhouse in London, near Mrs. And they're fantastic. So again, it falls into that Jonathan Richman thing of just writing about anything and having just complete freedom and not being frightened to use a sense of humour, not taking yourself too seriously.
Do you think they were ahead of their time as well then?
Yeah, definitely, most definitely, yeah.
Right, number 6, your last album.
Last one, I'm going to pick The Streets.
All right, that's a bit left field. That.
I think, it's hardly modern, it's probably 20 years ago now. But like that, I thought, like, what I liked about sort of rap, hip-hop again, was it sort of brought lyrics to the forefront again, which is a really good thing. And then it was really... really British as well, the overall thing. If you think about it, it's not actually that different from the Specials, really. Although it's like more electronic stuff. It could fit into that. And I just think the album is just an absolute classic of its time.
Original Pirate Material, the first one.
Yeah. And it was at the time when I'm from Widnes originally, and I moved here because I split up with my partner, and I sort of wanted to change the scenery, although I'd always had a lot to do with Liverpool because I'd all been into bands and stuff. And it coincided with just going to, like, particularly Labato, which was a big indie club at the time. And it's just a great time to just come into a new environment and go into clubs and just getting into that really good end of sort of dance music like that. But that wasn't just like, hey, let's get down kind of dance music. It had this great, like, lyrical content with it as well, which I think all those choices do, really. That's the last one, The Streets.
I think Mike Skinner's a genius.
Yeah.
The first sort of 3 or 4 songs on that album are just some of the best you'll ever hear.
Yeah, and again, mostly recorded in someone's bedroom, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah, really good choices there. I know most of them. I'll have to look into a couple of them, but check
really out Moldy Peaches, Modern Lovers. Check out them,
Yeah. Excellent. Right, 2 DVDs.
2 DVDs. The first one I'm going to go for is a DVD called Oil City Confidential. They are music DVDs. Oil City Confidential is about the band Dr. Feelgood, who are kind of unsung heroes of the British music scene. So before punk, there was a scene called the pub rock scene in London, which centred around like half a dozen little venues. And some of the things that punk gets a credit for are being, a reaction against the stadium rock thing, and started with the scene called the pub rock scene, where people, just people putting on free gigs in pubs in London, and these bands just doing it like the same as you would play at the Caledonia, Liverpool, and get 200 quid for playing on a Saturday night or whatever, and just get people in to buy beer. And these were the best band out of all that. And about 74, a good 2 years before the start of the punk thing, had short hair and were wearing tight suits, and they were mostly, it was called rhythm and blues at the time, which means some R&B means something else now, but rhythm and blues, they were playing old rock and roll tunes, rhythm and blues tunes, but like really fast. And they had this guitarist called Wilco Johnson, who was like my guitar hero, who he's the only rhythm guitar hero I can think of, maybe apart from Bo Diddley, and he just had this amazing guitar. So we played with a lot of plectrum, and it sounds like 2 guitarists playing, and they were just an incredible like live band. And they were just, again, it was a band that were just 2 years ahead of the time, and at the time when the punk thing started, it was one of the only bands that people in London, like the Stranglers and the Pistols and the Clash, actually respected.
Right.
Yeah. Because Joe Strummer came from a band called the 101ers, who were also part of that scene, which was this rhythm and blues public scene. And this film, All City Confidential, it's called that because they're from Canvey Island, which is on the Thames Estuary, which is a bit like sort of like Ellesmere Port or something. So it's like on a oil refineries and stuff like that, a rough place, like. But it had this little scene, and and growing up in that, where they listened to like, so it was a bit like it being like the Delta in the Mississippi Delta. It was like you listen to old blues records and things like that, and they put all that into it, and they made this like amazing like rock and roll band that influenced loads of people. And it's by Julian Temple, who did the Sex Pistols film, The Filth and the Fury. He has a great cut up kind of style of how he. Of how he puts the film together, and it's just great about how they came together, how they influenced loads of people. They crashed and burned quite quickly because Lee Brillo, the singer, and Wilco Johnson fell out, and these inspired loads of people, and then they vanished. They did carry on with another guitarist after, but it was never quite the same. But it's a great story. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's a brilliant story. That's all. There was something else I was going to say about that, which is I just forgot. But yeah, it was great anyway. Yeah, so I definitely recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, have a look out.
Yeah. My favourite rock and roll film of all time, it's about a guy called Danny Fields. Danny Fields was the guy who managed the Ramones from early on. Danny Fields was a guy in the late 60s who lived in a small town but moved to New York so he could be involved in the art scene and also be openly gay. And he fell in with the Warhol crowd, so it was a lot to do with them and the Velvet Underground. And then he invented himself as a press officer just so he could get into gigs for free, and ended up blagging his way as being a press officer for various record labels and things. But he discovered virtually everybody who was any good. Like, especially your sort of left field punky stuff. Like he discovered the Doors. He discovered the Modern Lovers, who we mentioned earlier on. He discovered Iggy and the Stooges. He discovered the MC5 because he was just going to the parties that the record executives weren't going to. He was just involved in the underground scene that they weren't, and although they didn't understand it, he would say he should sign this band and it would be a success, but they wouldn't get it. But he was just plugged into that, and then at some point he sees the Ramones and falls in love with the Ramones, and manages the Ramones. They sack him after so many years because they're trying to get a hit record, and they still never managed to have a hit record properly anyway. But he's dead funny, camp kind of guy, and the stories in it are just absolutely amazing rock and roll stories in that film. And he's still alive and he's still brilliant. He was on at Sound City not that long, because when this film came out he did a load of press stuff, and it's called Danny Says. There's a song by the Ramones called Danny Says, and it's named after that song. It's about him.
Is it quite a recent film, this?
I think it might be about 6 years, maybe something like that, maybe just before COVID, something like that. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that because I love the Ramones. They're one of my favourites.
Yeah, it's great, that Ramones bit. There's a great bit where he's managing Iggy, but like he just doesn't know how much longer he can carry on for it. It's like at one time he hired a truck and a PA to go on a tour, and they drive the truck under a bridge, and they ruin the truck, they ruin all the equipment, and they ruin a bridge, and he gets a bill from the mayor of whatever, St. Louis or somewhere, for the bridge, and he just thought, I can't do this. Iggy's so wild. I don't know I can't live knowing what trouble the next phone call's going to ring. So he's mates with Bowie, and Bowie comes to New York and says to Bowie, you would like Iggy, you'd get on really well, and he sort of palms him off onto Bowie, and that's how Bowie ends up being with him and going to Berlin and famously making us out and everything. But it's full of great stories like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching that.
Yeah.
Good choices there. 2 books.
Okay, first book is The Observer Book of British Birds, which is when I was a kid I was mad on nature and everything.
Right.
I don't know whether it's a reaction to coming from Widnes, which is the most, what used to be the most polluted place in Britain because of all the chemical factories and everything. Right. So I used to go like rambling in the country and like go with my dad into Cheshire, and I was massively into wildlife when I was a kid, and my missus is really impressed that I can still name loads of birds when we take the dog in Sefton Park. So I'm going to throw that one, because that's the first proper book I remember having any influence over me.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and you're not going to see any birds in Mars. I don't think they're up there. So that's the only time you're going to see them.
Well, yeah. Okay. The second one is a book called Just Kids, which is by Patti Smith, the famous singer, poet. It's a great book it's about quite a famous book now. She come from a little town, again, like Danny Fields, moved to New York to try and make it as an artist. And it's just, in the book, she's just living in almost squalor and working in like shitty jobs in cafes and in bookstores and things like that. She meets a guy called Robert Mapplethorpe, who she has a relationship with, and he became a famous photographer. He actually took the famous photograph of her, her first album called Horses, where she, with the white shirt on and everything, he took that picture, and it's just great, a story about struggling artists and everything. It's not really about her music, it really goes up to her music career, but then they get in with the Warhol crowd, and then they get in with the CBGB's crowd, and then she starts putting music to her poems, and that's how she becomes a sort of legendary kind of punk poet kind of thing. And it's called Just Kids, and there's a posh version now with loads of great pictures in as well. So yeah, they're my two books.
Yeah, brilliant. Luxury item?
Luxury item? I've got a luxury item down.
You'll have to pluck one.
I'm going to have to... Yeah.
Got your guitar there.
Yeah, and I'll take my dog.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
If dogs can breathe.
Yeah, we'll take the dog. Yeah.
A dog with a space helmet on, then, like it out of the cartoons. In that case, yeah. Because dogs are better than people, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. She's been very well behaved since I got here.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
She was barking her head off initially when I got here, and then she's all right now. She's asleep in the corner.
We're just about to get her a brother or a sister, which we debating whether to call it Stardust, so we'd have Ziggy Stardust. We thought Ziggy and Iggy, but then we thought that's just confusing when you're shouting them. So
they both come to you.
Yeah.
Okay, you get to fly a band over for an inaugural gig.
Yeah, I would pick the original Sex Pistols,
because
I think those early gigs, like that first punk festival in the 100 Club in 1976, when they barely had enough bands to call it a festival, I think that would have been something else to see them then. Did actually go and see him in Manchester, with Frank Carter singing with him.
Oh, right, how was that?
It's amazing. It's brilliant. It was great. It was different than Lydon. But I think when they reunited with Lydon anyway, he's been singing in that sort of pill voice, not singing them like it is on the record, in that high wailing kind of a thing. Plus, Johnny's a knobhead now anyway, so you wouldn't do. But yeah, it was fun. But it was just great, because it was just four blokes having a great time playing rock and roll, and those songs are all still great. Yeah. But I would love to have seen them, in their short career when they first came out. Really, yeah.
Yeah, I do like Frank Carter. I think he's a good frontman, isn't he?
He's his own man in that band. He's doing his own thing. He's not trying to be Johnny.
That's the most difficult thing, isn't it? Because he's so distinct, the voice.
Yeah.
Choose a president of Mars.
Choose a president on Mars. I'm going to go for Andy Warhol.
Okay.
You might have seen from my house, I'm a bit obsessed with Andy Warhol. But yeah, I just think he was just original in everything that he did, and I think he was so far ahead of his time. Do
you think he'd have good ideas about how to run the planet? I think he would
have very, very good ideas and totally unpolluted ideas about things, and very original ideas. So I'm going to put Andy Warhol.
Excellent. Where are we now? I get to accidentally leave someone behind conveniently.
Probably be Musk, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what the last guy said.
The world, so probably most people would say that in the minute. Yeah.
It's his idea to go, isn't it? So may as well leave him there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then you get to pick a law or an ethos for the new planet.
I would ban social media. I wouldn't ban the internet. I think the internet is fine, but I think social media is just poisonous. You have to admit it's great for promoting a band. You just have to go around town putting those posters up, but it's just poisonous. There's been something happened recently that's just where someone I know who's very good people have been destroyed by the internet, and it's just by social media, and it's just horrible.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it?
Yeah, and I know the other law would pedestrianise nearly everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So, which would sort out the pollution thing as well.
Yeah.
But would also, both those things would make people talk to each other again.
Yeah. That's it. That's all the questions. Now, the way I always end this is you get 30 seconds to say goodbye to all the albums you don't get to take.
Okay.
So I'll time you. 3, 2, 1, go.
The Rolling Stones, Out of Our Heads, the Kinks, Village Green Preservation Society, Blur, Park Life, Syd Barrett, not Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Beatles, Revolver, the Clash first album, the Spivs first album, Ramones, Rockets to Russia, the Undertones first album, Transformer, Lou Reed, Wire, Pink Flag, Nuggets, the 60s Garage compilation album, and Simon and Garfunkel's Greatest Hits.
You still got 5 seconds?
I've still got 5 seconds left. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Nice one, that's it. Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me down to talk stuff. It's actually all right. It looks nice. It's got a bad rep.
Horrible work going on. No, it's a brilliant place to live, this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Baltic Triangle is like 5 minutes walk, which is, do you know that area?
No.
Yeah. There's used to be up just the next lights. It was all warehouses and that. It's like now being all like cool bars and flats and stuff.
Right.
It's really good.
Oh.
You might have seen there's like murals, street art. There's
a
famous Jurgen Klopp one there and everything. That's there. It's worth going and have a look. It's really good. Yeah. So I'm 3 years off paying for this house. We keep getting like property developers putting things saying, "Can we buy your house?" Because obviously it's purely by chance. It's just just in the cool area, and they want to buy some. Hang on, some yuppie from London, £1 million, my little house.
That's the way forward. Nice one. Cheers, Pete. Thank you very much.
No problem, mate. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Cheers.